Market rates changed. Deal with it. Those 5 words came out of Wade's mouth like he was telling me the weather. No hesitation, no apology, just a statement, like 9 years meant nothing. I was standing in the small room where we kept the printer and supply shelves. The paper in my hand was still warm, an offer letter. It shouldn't have been my business, but there it was, just sitting in the output tray when I went to grab my reports. $92,000. That's what the number said. Base salary for someone named Paige who was starting Monday. Fresh graduate, 0 years of experience. The letter spelled it all out. Bachelor's degree completed 3 months ago. Starting position in our department. I make $65,000. Made. I've made $65,000 for the last 4 years. I didn't plan to confront Wade right then, but he walked past the room, saw me holding the paper, and stopped. You're looking at things that aren't yours, he said. This was in the printer, I said. I didn't go searching. He reached for the paper. I handed it to him. He glanced at it, then looked at me. Is there a problem? She's making $92,000. That's the current rate for the position. I make $65,000. You've been here 9 years. Your salary is based on when you started. So new people make more than people who've been here almost a decade? Wade folded the offer letter in half. Market rates changed. Deal with it. Then he walked away. I stood there for maybe 30 seconds. Maybe longer. My hands weren't shaking. My breathing was normal. I wasn't angry in the way you'd expect. I was just very, very aware of how things actually were. The truth is, I already knew I was underpaid. You don't work somewhere for 9 years without figuring that out. But seeing the exact number, the exact difference, made it real in a way that guessing never did. $27,000 less. That's what I was making compared to someone who hadn't worked a single day yet. My name is Rhea, and up until that moment, I thought loyalty mattered. Let me tell you how I got here. 9 years ago, I was 23. This was my first real job after finishing my degree. The department was smaller then, just 6 people. Wade wasn't the supervisor. He was just another person in the group, about 2 years older than me, trying to figure out how things worked. Back then, the supervisor was a woman named Greta. She was tough but fair. She hired me because I tested well and interviewed well. The salary was $52,000. It felt like a fortune to me at the time. Wade started 6 months before I did, but he struggled. I don't mean he was bad at the work. He just didn't understand the flow, how to prioritize, how to handle multiple projects, how to talk to the other departments. I helped him, not because I had to, because that's what you do when you're on a team. How do you keep track of everything? He asked me one day, during my 2nd month. I write it down, not just what needs to be done. I write down who asked for it, when they asked, and why it matters to them. That simple. Most things are. He started doing the same thing. Within a few months, he got better, much better. Greta noticed. She started giving him more responsibility, bigger projects. Wade would come to me when he got stuck. I'd walk him through it. I owe you, he said to me one afternoon after I'd spent 2 hours helping him fix a major issue with a client deliverable. Seriously, I would have been lost without you. We're a team, I said. He said, I owe you a lot those first 3 years. Maybe 50 times. Maybe more. When Greta retired, the higher-ups promoted Wade. He'd been there longer than me. He'd gotten good at talking to senior management. He knew how to present himself in meetings. I was happy for him. I really was. He told me at lunch one day, before the announcement went out. This doesn't change anything, he said. You and me, we've always worked well together. Congratulations, I said. You deserve it. I'm serious. You're the backbone of this team. I know that. Things did change, though. Not right away. Slowly, Wade became my supervisor. At first, he still asked for my input, still valued my opinion. But as the months went by, the dynamic shifted. The requests became instructions. The collaboration became delegation. And the I owe you turned into, I need you to handle this. A year after he got promoted, they hired 3 new people. Wade asked me to train them. You're the best at this, he said. I need someone who can get them up to speed fast. I trained all 3, showed them everything Greta had shown me, everything I'd learned, everything I'd figured out on my own. 2 years after that, one of them got promoted to a senior role. Her name was Juliet. She'd been there 3 years total. She was good at her job. I'm not saying she didn't deserve it, but I'd been there 7 years at that point. I'd been doing senior level work for at least 4. I asked Wade about it. Why didn't I get considered for that position? You're too valuable where you are, he said. What does that mean? It means you're the person who keeps everything running. If I move you up, I lose that stability. So I get punished for being good at my job? It's not punishment. It's recognition. You're the one I can count on. That conversation happened in his workspace. He was sitting. I was standing. He didn't look at me when he said it. He was looking at something on his monitor. I didn't push it. I should have, but I didn't. That same year, I asked for a raise. I'd been at $52,000 for 5 years. They'd given me small increases, 3% here, 2% there. I was up to $61,000. I wrote out a whole explanation, what I'd accomplished, what I was handling, what my role had become compared to what I was hired to do. Wade said he'd take it to his manager. 2 weeks later, he got back to me. Budget's tight this year, he said, but I fought for you. I got you 4%. 4% of $61,000 is $2,440. That brought me to about $63,440. Next year, Wade said. I promise. Next year we'll revisit this. Next year came. I asked again. Same process. Same explanation. Same promise from Wade to fight for me. This time, 3%. About $1,900. I was at $65,340. It's out of my hands, Wade said. Senior management sets the budget, but you're doing great work. Don't think this reflects on your value. The third person I trained got promoted the following year. His name was Derek. He'd been there 2 years. He became my peer in title, but I later found out he was making $72,000. I didn't ask Wade about it. I already knew what he'd say. Before I continue further, I want to say thank you for listening to this. I know it's not easy to hear about someone getting treated like this. It happens more than people talk about it. If you're listening from your car, your home, your office, wherever you are right now, I appreciate you being here. Now back to the story. Last year, Juliet, the first person I trained, got promoted again. She was now 2 levels above me. Derek moved up too. Both of them made more than I did. Both of them learned how to do their jobs from me. I asked Wade why I kept getting passed over. You don't put yourself out there enough, he said. What does that mean? You do great work, but you're quiet about it. You need to make sure people see what you're doing. You see what I'm doing. You're my supervisor. I can only advocate so much. You need to advocate for yourself. This felt like a different game than the one I'd been playing. But fine. I started speaking up more in meetings. I started making sure my work got noticed. Nothing changed. I asked for another raise 6 months ago, laid out everything again. Wade said he'd try. Things are different now, he told me. We're bringing in new talent at competitive rates. That doesn't mean we don't value our existing people. Then pay me what I'm worth. I'll see what I can do. He came back with 2%, about $1,300. I was making $65,000. I'd been there 8.5 years. I was doing the work of someone who should have been making at least $80,000, probably more. And then Monday morning, I saw that offer letter, $92,000 for someone who hadn't worked a single day in our field. I went back to my workspace after Wade walked away from me in the printer room. I sat down. I opened my drawer. Inside was a plain folder. I'd been keeping it for years. Every time I asked for a raise, I printed out what I sent to Wade. Every time he responded, I printed that too. Every performance review where he rated me as exceeds expectations or outstanding contribution, I kept a copy. I didn't plan this. I wasn't plotting. I just had this feeling, year after year, that I should keep track, that maybe someday it would matter. I pulled out the folder. It was thick. 9 years of asking. 9 years of being told next time. I looked through it. Every promise Wade made. Every "I'll fight for you" that turned into another small percentage. Every review where he praised my work, but somehow never had the money to pay me for it. And I realized something. Wade had approved higher salaries for at least 5 people in the last 4 years. People with less experience. People I'd trained. He found the budget for them, but never for me. I closed the folder, put it back in the drawer. Then I started thinking about what to do next. I spent the rest of that day working like normal. Answered questions. Handled requests. Wade walked past my workspace twice. Didn't say anything. At home that night, I sat with the folder, read through everything again. Slowly, this time, year 1. I asked for a merit increase after my first annual review. Wade said the company doesn't do merit increases outside of the standard review cycle, but he'd remember it for next year. Year 2, standard review, 3% increase. I asked if there was room for more given my expanded responsibilities. Wade said he'd pushed for 5% but could only get 3 approved. Year 3, another 3%. I'd started training new hires by then. Wade's review note said, essential team member and go-to person for complex problems. I asked for a title change to reflect my actual role. Wade said titles were handled differently and he'd look into it. Year 4. Wade wrote in my review that I was performing at a senior level. I asked for senior level pay. He said he agreed I deserved it, but we'd need to wait for a position to open up. In the meantime, 4% increase. Year 5, 2%. Budget cuts. That year, Wade said, everyone was getting smaller increases. Year 6, 3%. I asked again about the senior title and corresponding salary. Wade said he was working on it, just needed to get approval from his manager. Year 7, 3%. Juliet got promoted. I trained her. She'd been there 3 years. Year 8, 2%. Derek got promoted. I trained him. He'd been there 2 years. Year 9, 2%. Wade told me I needed to advocate for myself more. I laid all the pages out on my floor. It looked like a timeline of being slowly forgotten while doing more and more work. But here's what I noticed. In year 6, Wade had written in my review, Ria's contributions have directly resulted in our department exceeding performance targets for 3 consecutive quarters. Her ability to manage multiple high-priority projects simultaneously is unmatched on the team. In year 7, his review said, without Ria's expertise and dedication, our recent expansion would not have been possible. She has trained 3 new team members who are now fully productive contributors. Year 8, Ria consistently delivers exceptional results under tight deadlines. She is the most reliable member of the team and frequently goes beyond her role to ensure department success. He knew. Every year, he knew exactly what I was worth. He wrote it down. He just didn't want to pay me for it. The next morning, I came in early. Wade usually arrived around 8. I got there at 7. I made copies of everything in my folder. 3 complete sets. Then, I put the originals back in my drawer. Wade showed up at 8:15. I was at my workspace when he walked past. Morning, he said. Morning, I said back. Normal day, normal routine. At 10, I sent a meeting request, not to Wade, to his manager, Francine, and to Francine's manager, Lloyd. Lloyd was the department head. I'd met him maybe 5 times in 9 years. Always seemed fair, always asked good questions. The meeting request said, compensation discussion regarding role alignment and pay equity, time sensitive. I sent it for 2 o'clock that afternoon. Francine accepted within 10 minutes. Lloyd accepted 5 minutes after that. At noon, Wade stopped by my workspace. I saw you scheduled a meeting with Francine and Lloyd, he said. Yes. What's it about? Compensation discussion. His expression changed a little. Not much. Just enough. You should have talked to me first. I did. Yesterday. You told me to deal with it. I wouldn't. That's not what I meant. What did you mean? He didn't answer right away. Someone walked past. He waited until they were gone. You're going over my head, he said quietly. I'm having a conversation with the people who make decisions about pay structure. This makes me look bad. I'm not trying to make you look any particular way. I'm trying to get paid fairly. We can talk about this, Wade said. You don't need to involve them. We've been talking about this for 9 years. He stood there another moment. Then he walked away. At 2 o'clock, I went to the meeting room on the 4th floor. Small room, window overlooking the parking area, 4 chairs, and a basic work surface. Francine was already there. She was maybe 50. Been with the company 15 years. Always professional. Never warm. Never unkind. Just steady. Lloyd came in a minute later. Older. Close to retirement, probably. He'd been with the company since before I was born. Thanks for meeting with me, I said. Of course, Lloyd said. What's going on? I put the folder on the surface between us. One of the copies I'd made. I've been here 9 years, I said. I'm currently making $65,000. Yesterday, I accidentally saw an offer letter for a new hire starting Monday. She's making $92,000. I want to understand why there's a $27,000 gap between someone with 9 years of experience and someone with zero. Francine opened the folder, started looking through it. This is a lot of material, she said. It's 9 years of performance reviews and raise requests. I kept copies of everything. Lloyd leaned forward. Walk us through it. So I did. Slowly, page by page. I showed them Wade's review comments. Every single time he called me essential, reliable, exceptional. Every time he said I was performing above my level, then I showed them my raise requests. What I'd asked for. What Wade said when he responded. Every promise to revisit it next quarter. Every explanation about budget constraints. In year 6, I said, Wade wrote that my contributions directly resulted in the department exceeding targets for 3 quarters. That same year, I got a 3% raise. That's less than $2,000. Francine was reading carefully. Lloyd was watching me. The following year, I continued, Wade promoted Juliet to a senior role. I trained Juliet. She'd been here 3 years. I'd been here 7. When I asked Wade why I wasn't considered, he said I was too valuable in my current position. Did you apply for that role? Lloyd asked. There wasn't an application process. Wade selected her. I see. I showed them year 8, Derek's promotion. Same situation. Last year, I said, I asked Wade what I needed to do to move forward. He told me I didn't advocate for myself enough, so I started doing that. I spoke up more in meetings. I made sure my work was visible. Nothing changed. And yesterday? Francine asked. Yesterday, I saw the offer letter. $92,000 for an entry-level position. Wade told me market rates had changed, and I needed to deal with it. Lloyd sat back in his chair. Did he actually say those words? Yes, exactly those words. Francine closed the folder. Can we keep this? That's your copy, I said. Give us a day to review everything, Lloyd said. We'll need to talk to Wade as well. I understand. In the meantime, Francine said, I want you to know we take this seriously. Pay equity is not something we ignore. I nodded. I appreciate that. The meeting lasted 20 minutes total. When I got back to my workspace, Wade was standing there. How did it go? He asked. Fine. What did you tell them? The truth, which is that I've been underpaid for 9 years, and you've consistently told me there was nothing you could do about it while approving higher salaries for less experienced people. His jaw tightened. That's not fair. Which part? I've always supported you. I've always tried to get you more. Your reviews say I'm exceptional. My pay says I'm average. Those two things don't match. You don't understand how this works, Wade said. There are politics involved. There are budget limitations. I can't just give people whatever they ask for. But you could give Paige $92,000 before she's worked a single day. That's different. How? New hires are different. We have to compete for talent. And you don't have to compete to keep me? Wade didn't answer that. I've given this place 9 years, I said. I've trained your new hires. I've fixed your problems. I've stayed late when things broke. And you've thanked me by keeping me at the bottom of the pay scale while everyone else moves up. That's not true. Then explain the numbers. He couldn't. He just stood there, looking at me like I'd betrayed him somehow. We're going to get through this, he said finally. But you need to trust the process. I've trusted the process for 9 years. He walked away after that. The next day, Francine sent me a meeting request. Just her. 3 o'clock. When I got there, she had the folder open in front of her. I spent last night reading through all of this, she said. Then I pulled your actual personnel file, your performance reviews, your salary history, and I looked at what other people in the department are making. Okay, Wade has consistently rated you at the highest level, every single year. Do you know what that means for budget allocation? No. When managers rate someone at the highest level, they're supposed to justify it with compensation that reflects that rating. Wade has been rating you as exceptional, but compensating you as adequate. That's a significant discrepancy. So what happens now? I spoke with Lloyd. We also spoke with Wade. He claims he's been limited by budget restrictions and that he's always advocated for you within those limitations. Do you believe that? Francine looked at me directly. I pulled the salary approvals for the last 4 years. Wade approved 5 new hires at rates between $78,000 and $92,000. He approved 3 promotions at rates between $72,000 and $85,000. During that same period, you received standard cost of living increases that averaged 2.8% annually. So he found budget for everyone else. Yes, I didn't say anything. Let her keep talking. There's something else, Francine said. In his justification for Juliet's promotion, Wade wrote that she'd shown initiative and leadership potential. In his justification for Derek's promotion, he wrote that Derek had demonstrated strategic thinking and project ownership. Both of those justifications included examples of work that you actually did. That hit differently than I expected. Not anger, just clarity. He took credit for my work? Not directly, but he attributed accomplishments to people you trained without mentioning your role. Why would he do that? I don't know, but it's a pattern. Francine closed the folder again. Here's what's going to happen, she said. We're adjusting your salary effective immediately. $94,000. That's $2,000 more than the new hire, which reflects your experience level. We're also changing your title to senior, specialist, which should have happened 3 years ago. I felt something release in my chest. Not relief, exactly. More like validation. And Wade? Wade is being reassigned. He'll stay at his current salary, but he'll no longer have direct reports. He'll be moved to project support work. When? End of this week. I nodded slowly. Who's taking over the team? We're evaluating that. You're one of the candidates we're considering. I don't know if I want to be a manager. Think about it, you don't have to decide today. I left that meeting feeling strange. Not happy, not sad, just different. Wade avoided me for the rest of the week. On Friday, there was an announcement. Wade was transitioning to a new role. Interim supervision of the team would be handled by Francine until a permanent replacement was identified. The following Monday, Paige started. She seemed nice, nervous, excited. I trained her, just like I'd trained everyone else. But this time, I was making $94,000, and Wade was sitting in a workspace 2 rows over, doing entry-level project support. Same salary as me now. No team, no authority, just work. I watched Wade for the first few weeks after his reassignment, not obviously, just aware of where he was, what he was doing. He came in later than he used to, around 9 instead of 8:15. He'd go straight to his workspace, put his bag down, and start working. No walking around, no checking in with people, no managing. The team noticed. Of course they did. Juliet asked me about it 3 days after the change. What happened with Wade? She said. We were in the break area. She was making tea. I was refilling my water bottle. He got reassigned, I said. But why? You'd have to ask Francine. People are saying you complained about him. I had a conversation with leadership about my compensation. That's all. She stirred her tea slowly. Was it because of the new hire? The salary thing? Partly. I heard she's making more than most of us. She's making $92,000. Juliet's expression shifted. I'm making $85,000. I know. How do you know? Wade mentioned it once. Long time ago. She looked uncomfortable. I didn't know you were making so much less than everyone. I just assumed. Assumed what? That you were being paid fairly. You've been here the longest. Length of time doesn't always matter, I said. She left after that. I could tell she was processing something. Maybe guilt. Maybe just surprise. Derek had a different reaction. He came to my workspace that same week. I heard about Wade, he said. Okay, did you really go over his head? I talked to the people who handle compensation decisions. That's not going over his head. That's using the proper channels. It feels like you threw him under the bus. How? You know how. You made him look bad to management. I showed them my performance reviews and my salary history. If that made him look bad, maybe there was a reason. Derek shook his head. Wade's always been good to us. He gave me my promotion. He's the reason I'm where I am. Did you know I trained you? Yeah. So Wade approved your promotion at $72,000 after 2 years. I'd been here 7 years at that point, making $63,000. Does that seem right to you? He didn't answer. I'm not saying you don't deserve what you got, I said. I'm saying I deserved more than what I was getting. Those are 2 different things. Still feels like you could have handled it differently. How? I don't know. Just differently. He walked away. I understood why people were uncomfortable. Wade had been their manager. He'd hired some of them. promoted others. When someone like that falls, people don't know how to feel about it. But nobody asked me how I felt. Nobody asked what it was like to train 5 people and watch all of them end up making more than me. Nobody asked what it was like to get praised every year and paid like I was barely competent. Francine took over team meetings. She ran them differently than Wade, more direct, less talking around things. 2 weeks after the reassignment, she pulled me aside after a meeting. "We're starting the search for a permanent team lead," she said. "I meant what I said about you being a candidate. Have you thought about it?" "Some. And I don't know if I want to manage people." "Why not?" "Because I've seen what it does. Wade used to be decent. Then he got power, and he changed. Or maybe he didn't change. Maybe he just showed who he really was." Francine nodded. "That's a fair concern. But you're not Wade. How do you know?" "Because you spent 9 years doing the right work without recognition or proper pay. Someone who wants power for power's sake doesn't do that. They leave. They make noise. They find a way to get ahead. Maybe I was just scared to leave. Were you?" "I thought about that." "No, I wasn't scared. I just kept thinking it would get better." "Do you still think that?" "No." "Good. That's the first requirement for leadership. Seeing things as they are, not as you wish they were." She gave me until the end of the month to decide. Paige was learning fast. She asked good questions, didn't pretend to know things she didn't, reminded me of myself 9 years ago. One afternoon, she came to me with a problem, a client deliverable that wasn't working the way it should. "I've tried everything I can think of," she said. "I don't know what I'm missing." I looked at her work, saw the issue immediately. "Here," I said. "You're using the right approach, but the sequence is wrong. Do this step before that one." She made the change. It worked. "How did you see that so fast?" she asked. 9 years of making the same mistake." She laughed. "Can I ask you something?" "Sure. Why is Wade doing support work now? People say he used to run this team." "He did." "What happened?" "He stopped being good at it." "Is that why you're training me instead of him?" "Partly." She didn't push further. Smart. A few days later, I was working late. Most people had left. I needed to finish something before morning. Wade was still there. I saw him at his workspace when I went to grab something from the printer room. On my way back, he stopped me. "Can we talk?" he said. "About what?" "About everything." I didn't owe him a conversation, but I was curious. "Okay." We went to one of the small meeting rooms. Empty building. Just the 2 of us. Wade sat down heavily. He looked tired. "I don't understand why you did this," he said. "Did what?" "Destroyed my career." "I didn't destroy anything. I asked to be paid fairly." "You know what I mean. You went to Francine and Lloyd. You made me look incompetent. I showed them documentation. If that made you look incompetent, whose fault is that?" He rubbed his face. "I tried to help you. For years. I tried." "No. By keeping me at the lowest salary on the team? By keeping you employed. Do you know how many times Lloyd wanted to restructure this department? How many times I had to fight to keep headcount? So I should be grateful you didn't fire me?" "That's not what I'm saying." "Then what are you saying?" He was quiet for a moment. "I'm saying it's more complicated than you think. I had constraints. I had pressure from above. I couldn't just give everyone everything they wanted. But you could give new hires $92,000? That's different. New hire salaries come from a different budget." "Then, you should have told me that. You should have explained how it actually worked, instead of promising me next quarter, next year, next budget cycle. I thought I was managing expectations. You were managing me out of $27,000 a year." Wade looked down. I didn't think you'd actually leave. You seemed happy." "I wasn't happy. I was convenient." "That's not fair." "Neither is 9 years of being underpaid." He didn't have anything to say to that. I stood up. "I need to finish my work." "Are you taking the team lead position?" he asked. "I don't know yet. If you do, you'll understand. You'll see how hard it is to keep everyone happy." "I'm not interested in keeping everyone happy. I'm interested in treating people fairly." I left him there. The next week, I made my decision. I told Francine I'd take the team lead role, not because I wanted power, not because I wanted to prove something, because I'd spent 9 years watching someone do it wrong, and I knew I could do it better. They announced it 3 days later. Effective immediately, I was the new team lead. Salary adjusted to $102,000. The team had mixed reactions. Juliet seemed genuinely happy for me. Derek was professional but distant. Paige sent me a message saying, "Congratulations." Wade didn't say anything. My first week as team lead, I did something Wade never did. I pulled everyone's salary information, not secretly. Francine gave me access as part of my new role. I looked at what everyone was making. Then I looked at what they were doing, their experience, their performance. 3 people were underpaid, not as badly as I'd been, but enough that it mattered. I put together adjustments, submitted them to Francine with justifications. She approved them within a day. I called each person individually to tell them. First was a woman named Ruby. She'd been there 4 years, making $68,000. Should have been making at least $74,000 based on her work. "You're getting a raise," I told her. $6,000, effective next pay period. She stared at me. "Why?" "Because you're underpaid. Did I do something to earn it? You've been doing work that earns it for 4 years. I'm just correcting the oversight." She teared up a little. Wade always said, there wasn't budget. There's budget. It's about priorities. The second person was Marcus. 3 years with the company, making $64,000, bumped him to $70,000. The third was Paige. I know she'd just started, but $92,000 was actually high for someone with 0 experience. It wasn't fair to the people who'd been there longer. I didn't lower her salary, but I made sure everyone else was brought up to appropriate levels, so the gap wasn't as stark. Within a month, the team felt different. People worked harder, not because I demanded it, because they felt valued. Wade was still there, still doing support work. He came in, did his job, went home. We didn't talk. 3 months into my new role, Lloyd called me into his workspace. "How are things going?" he asked. "Good. The team's productive. Morale is better. I've noticed. So has senior leadership. That's good to hear." "I want to ask you something," Lloyd said. "When you first came to us with that folder, what did you think would happen?" Honestly, I didn't know. I just knew I couldn't keep doing what I was doing. "Did you want Wade removed?" "No. I wanted to be paid fairly. What happened to Wade was a consequence of his choices, not mine." Lloyd nodded. "That's a mature way to look at it. It's the only way to look at it. Some people would have been vindictive, would have pushed for worse. I'm not interested in revenge. I'm interested in fairness." "That's why you're good at this," Lloyd said. 6 months after everything changed, I saw Wade in the parking area. We were both leaving at the same time. He looked at me. I looked at him. "How's it going?" I asked. "Fine," he said. "Good." We walked to our vehicles in silence. Before he got in, he turned back. "You were right," he said. "About what?" "About all of it." Then he got in and drove away. I never got an apology, not a real one, but that acknowledgement was something. A year later, Paige came to me asking about a raise. She'd been there 14 months. She'd grown a lot. She deserved more. I looked at her work, looked at her contributions, put together a proposal, got her bumped to $98,000. When I told her, she asked, "How did you make this happen so fast?" "Because I remember what it's like when people don't fight for you." She smiled. "Thank you." "Don't thank me. Keep doing good work. That's how you thank me." Wade left the company 4 months after that. I heard through someone that he got a job somewhere else. Smaller company, no management role. I didn't feel good about it. Didn't feel bad either. Just felt like things worked out the way they needed to. I still have that folder. I don't look at it anymore. Don't need to. But I keep it as a reminder. 9 years of asking. 9 years of being told to wait. One meeting changed everything. Not because I was vindictive. Not because I wanted revenge. Because I finally understood that loyalty without fairness is just exploitation. And I was done being exploited. Thank you for listening to my story. If it resonated with you, if you've ever felt undervalued or underpaid, I'd really appreciate it if you'd take a moment to like this and leave a comment about your experience. Subscribe if you want to hear more stories like this. Your support means everything and helps these stories reach people who need to hear them. Thank you again for being here.